is one of the most common mistakes people make when trying to do it themselves?
That's the first one. They try to do it themselves.
Right?
And the number one reason is because the podcasters trying to do it all themselves. They're trying to spend a ton of money on equipment, and then they have to figure out how to get guests on the show, and then they have to figure out how to edit and upload and schedule and then slice and dice and create content, all this stuff. And it's easy to get fried out if you're
Yes.
doing all of that yourself.
Welcome, David. How are you today?
Jen, I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm very excited about what you have to share today with the audience in your unique niche of creating podcasts to
Yeah.
attract accredited investors. How this idea was born, David?
So I started my podcast, Property Profits, back in 2018, which in podcast years is a long time ago. And at the beginning, I was kind of copying everybody else, right? I wanted a thought platform. I wanted people to see me as the expert. I was hoping I could, book in all of these big name guests like Robert Kiyosaki and Grant Cardone and Maldonado, and finally got her not that long ago. The other guys, not yet, but trying to get the big names in real estate on my show. And then hoping that those folks would share their episodes with their followers, which usually didn't happen. Hoping that I'd create a huge following, a huge audience of these people, hoping that they would figure out that I was smart at helping people raise capital, hoping that they would reach out to me and hoping that they would end up doing business to me. There was a heck of a lot of hoping, hardly anything happening for a long time, Jen. So my podcast was kind of hit and miss. I do an episode every week or two whenever I got around to it, and it just wasn't really performing. And then about 4 years ago now, yeah, give or take, I was actually listening to somebody else's podcast. And I heard this very smart young guy named Jamie Atkinson. So full credit to Jamie for introducing this idea to me. And he said, you know what? On my show, I don't really worry about how many downloads I get. I don't really worry about, how big the audience is growing. I don't really worry about all of that kind of stuff. What I focus on is interviewing my ideal clients. And that's what I focus on. And instead of doing onesie twosie interviews every week or two, I do multiple interviews every week with my ideal target avatar. And the light bulbs went off and the angels sang and the heavens opened up and it was like it really was. It was an epiphany. It was like, wow, that was deep. About 3 months, I got the whole system going and it really made a big difference in my own business, which was, I have a marketing agency. We work with capital raisers. We help them to raise private capital, right? So I started interviewing, uh, real estate investors on my show directly instead of the gurus. So go directly and interview the mom and pops. That's what I was focusing on for a while. And I did that for a while and it worked well. And then it just kind of dropped on me because I hadn't been able to help syndicators and fund managers and like the guys and gals that are raising serious amounts of money. I'd been focusing on the mom and pops for a long time. And then I thought, you know what? I bet you this whole podcasting thing would work really, really well for syndicators to connect them with accredited investors. So I started a little beta group of 5 clients, and that was almost 2 years ago. Out of those 5 clients, 3 of them are still working with me. So it's that's pretty good numbers for this kind of a lead gen type thing. And yeah, we started this whole what I call now high ticket podcasting service where we build our clients a podcast that appeals to their ideal investor avatar. We go out, we get them 5 or 6 interviews booked a week with those people, with accredited investors. So successful business owners, professionals, executives, those kind of folks. And then we do all the production work for them. So really all they have to do is just kind of what you and I are doing right now. Show up on Zoom with a clean shirt and a smile and remember to click record and everything else magically happens in the background.
I think you just lay out a big difference, and I learned this too on podcasting. So Can I ask you this? What is one of the most common mistakes people make when trying to do it themselves?
That's the first one. They try to do it themselves.
Right?
And I'm not saying you got to work with me. I'm just saying if you look at the stats, and stats are stats, right? But the vast majority of podcasts, and I'm talking like 80% or something like that, do not make it past episode 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And the number one reason is because the podcasters trying to do it all themselves. They're trying to, they spend a ton of money on equipment and then they have to figure out how to get guests on the show. And then they have to figure out how to edit and upload and schedule and then slice and dice and create content, all this stuff. And it's easy to get fried out if you're
Yes.
doing all of that yourself. If you want to get into podcasting, even if you're finding some little folks on Fiverr to do stuff for you, super, super cheap, do it. Just don't try to do it all on your own. So that's the number one mistake. Number two mistake is they make it all about them. The big switch for me was making the show all about them,
Yes.
not about me. It's all about our target avatar. So create a show that's going to appeal to your ideal, in this case, your ideal investor. Number one, to be a guest on your show. And number two, hopefully to tune in and check out your show on a regular basis as well. So that's another big tip. Make it all about them.
I think a lot of people make that mistake and make it so self-centered that they
Mm.
forgot that they're providing a service. One of the things I learned from one of my mentors is you need to take that message from I to them, right? And how does that apply in their lives? And I think so many people get stuck in the I and forget that they're providing a service. The fact that people try to do themselves, they ended not only slowing down but giving up. It's a very dangerous area when it comes to trying to raise capital, trying to get a business running. And something that I love that you say is high ticket offers. And the reason why I say that, I'm all about high ticket offers because what I have learned is it gives you speed. And I know that the speed people pay for results. And I know that that's something you do. You help them, you manage. And personally, I think that a lot of capital raisers, they forget that they should be raising capital, not just marketing. And if they can hand out something like this to you or someone else, as you mentioned, these
Mhm.
can free a lot of time for them. So I have this other question for you.
Yeah.
What separates the ones who are racing or who race consistently from the ones that who stall out, like they're taking that time and it's not moving forward?
The biggest difference is having a consistent flow of quality conversations with the right kind of people, whether that's through a podcast or anything else, right? So it's resting on your laurels, going back to your old investor base, trying to shake the tree and shake loose a few more dollar apples from those folks. When, quite frankly, a lot of people in the, especially in the multifamily space these days, they've gone through some pretty rough times, and a lot of them have deals that have gone a little bit sideways. They've had to do cash calls. They've got investors that aren't really thrilled at the moment with how things are going with some of their deals. So, trying to get more capital from those people, good luck, like quite frankly.
Yeah.
Now, if people are following good advice, like the kind of advice that you give folks, and they're investing based on sound principles now and not on hype,
Yes.
then I think now can be a very really good time to take advantage of some really good deals that are coming down the pipeline. But you probably have to reach out to a new group of people who haven't been burned by some multifamily in the past, or who haven't, gotten so spoiled from the go-go days that they're waiting for those to come back right away. You have to go after fresh folks who haven't perhaps been part of a syndication before, haven't invested in multifamily, haven't invested in real estate. So again, going out to that, they talk about blue oceans and red oceans, that kind of stuff. So going out to that blue ocean of new investor prospects, having those conversations on a consistent basis.
Yes, and that's such a great point. It's separating the people who understand opportunity, especially during these times, David. Now it's not about hype. This is what is going to distinguish the good investors from the ones that just went through the hype and catch on the wave of the good markets. Now it's
Yeah.
time for buying right and get buy at discount. This is the perfect time, but not every investor is prepared, and it's going to sound funny, emotionally to make those decisions. And I don't know if you follow Warren Buffett, but something I love about him, it's he was saying that this is the times that you have to practice emotionally how you're going to react to the market and create a shopping list for the type of assets you're going to be buying. But to your point, investors who has investing projects that they lost money, they're very
Yeah.
scared of the situation because it was a big challenge to your point. So when it comes to reaching to these blue ocean, what is a power move that you show to your clients or that you use personally to really tap or navigate through that blue ocean? How does that happen? Tell me a little story.
It really kind of depends on our clients. So we have certain clients that are very geographically focused. I've got one client I can think of in Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
and he does multifamily syndications, but he's a kind of a meet and greet, shake hands, coffee meeting kind of guy. So he prefers to have investors from his local area, Phoenix and Scottsdale, around that area. So we're very narrow on the geography, on the location of what we're looking for, but we're pretty broad on who could fit that parameter. So in his case, we're going after successful local business owners, people who've been in business for 10 or more years, have 10 or more employees. No
Mm-hmm.
guarantee, but highly likely that they probably bring in a couple hundred grand a year and qualify as a credit investor, right? So that's one bucket that we're going after, business owners. Another bucket of people we're going after for him in and around Phoenix are professionals. So these are the ones everybody always thinks about. Okay, we have doctors and dentists and, you know, orthopedic surgeons and, all these kind of high paid professional type folks, certain engineers, CPAs, lawyers, these kind of folks. So that's another bucket, high paid professionals. So we're going after those folks in that area. And then the other one is employees of large companies who are probably earning enough to qualify as an accredited investor. So C-suite executives of big companies, certain IT professionals, certain engineer type professionals. So we come up with those different buckets and we approach these people, do a lot of our lead generation using LinkedIn and different softwares and whatnot. And we'll approach them on LinkedIn, connect with them, like their stuff, invite them to be a guest. We'll also send out direct emails to them saying, hey, found you on LinkedIn. Think what you're up to is great. We'd love to feature you as a guest on our show. Here's what's in it for you. And even picking up the phone and calling people and inviting them to be guests. So, whatever it takes to get those 5 or 6 bookings every single week, that's what we do for our clients.
Wow, that's a full service, David. Which it covers like my other question pretty much because I was like, how do you turn them into these podcasting relationship where they want to be in the show?
That's a
And
really good question. Yeah, everybody asks that. So, why would your local dentist want to be on a podcast? Well, in that case, it's, that particular show is called the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast. It's not about real estate, it has nothing to do with syndications or multifamily. It's all about personal success, professional success, financial success. But one of the biggest things is it's psychological, Jen. It's like an honor to be a guest on the show. A lot of these people have never been invited to be a podcast guest before. So it's a big deal for them. It's a massive ego stroke for them, right?
yeah,
So it's kind of like a nice, very nice ego stroke for me to be a guest on your show today. This is wonderful, right? Makes me feel good. Well, same with these folks. They love being invited to be a guest on the show, and they're getting recognition where they probably don't get that much at work. They probably even get less at home. So it's a nice, friendly, good job, pat on the back for them. That's why they love it. Plus some extra benefits. We create a bunch of content for them that they can share, reels and shorts and LinkedIn posts and Facebook posts and all this kind of good stuff we create for the guests as well so they can leverage their appearance on the show.
pretty much lay out your strategy, David, because I just want to summarize what you just said. First of all, you are targeting the right people that align with that person. Align capital is one of the
Hmm.
biggest challenges. One of my biggest challenges, or not personally, but one of the things that when students come to me, we have to shed it's the right target, the right type
Hmm.
of investors that align with them. And you just lay it out. You find the right people according to these capital raisers value. And that's what I love about your team. The second, you ensure that there's a clear strategy because as you were sharing and all your process, I can see already like a lot of people making those mistakes, not having a clear strategy on how they're going to do that podcast, why they're doing it from a branding perspective, from the wrong audience or right audience. I mean, that right there, it's a lot of great value.
Would you like to
Yeah.
role play a little bit?
Yes, let's do it. You know, I love role play. Oh my God, you were reading my mind.
Yeah, because a lot of people say, okay, well, it sounds good, Dave, but what the heck do I talk about? Like, what questions do I ask the person? Then, how do I switch from just all the warm and fuzzy stuff to actually turning them into an investor? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do with this whole process without being a scumbag, right? Without
Yeah.
being sleazy, without being bait and switch. So it's taken a while, Jen, but we've come up with a really good process for getting the conversation going around investing and then creating a hook and getting that person booked into a discovery call, processing them along and turning them into investors. You've worked with a ton of investors. Who do you
Mhm.
tend to attract? Do they tend to be business owners, professionals, executive type folks? Who do they tend to be?
I have three specifically.
Mhm.
Definitely high paid professionals, engineers, they're attracted because I love spreadsheets and logistic things, and doctors.
Nerd alert.
That they're alert. Yes, I'm one of those.
That's wonderful.
So, and it makes sense. But also the doctors looking for opportunities to reduce their taxes, they always call me, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Mhm.
And a lot of high tech. I don't talk to a lot of executive, but mostly high tech.
Okay,
I would say
cool.
that those are enough for us
Pick
to
one of
like.
them. Doesn't matter
Sure.
which one. Which one do you want to be today?
Of course, engineer. Let's go into the
Engineer.
roots.
Yeah, all right. All right. So caveat here, I know nothing about engineering, but we'll have the conversation anyway. All right. So you're an engineer. Are you an engineer working at a big company as a high paid employee? Are you independent?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. And we've attracted you to be a guest on the podcast. We've had a nice conversation so far for about 15 minutes, talking a little bit about your background, what you got into engineering, what you're doing at the company. Now, I want to kind of open the door a little bit about financial success and kind of talk about investing without going right at it like, Jen, do you invest in real estate? No, we don't want to do that. We want to be softer and kind of, you know, work around that in a much more subtle way. Okay, so we're going to pretend you're the guest, you're the engineer, and I'll kind of do the timeout when I'm done doing the role play, and we can just talk about it. All right.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. So we'll get into mode here. So Jen, congratulations on your success at ABC Company and what you've been doing, those amazing projects that you've done. Now, Jen, I don't know about you, but a lot of busy engineers, they're financially doing really, really well right now at their current positions, but they tend to have to work really hard and some crazy long hours to keep that income up. And some folks are looking to the future where they want to keep that level of income high, but they don't want to have to be clocking in 80 hours a week at work and they don't have to be all work. So they're looking at different ways of creating some income outside of their job. Typically, they'd say something like, yeah, I just invest in the company 401k or something like that,
Mm,
or I've got a financial plan, or I'm fooling around a little bit in crypto or something like that. So
yeah.
it's usually kind of talking a little bit around that.
Yeah. I don't know. I can work more hours and I wish I can make more money, but I don't know.
Mm,
I don't even know where to go. The company gives me a great 401k and even I have a pension plan that doesn't exist anymore. One of
mm.
those financial planners told me that I should invest in annuities and it does okay, but I mean still.
So I just opened it up and I'm just trying to it doesn't really matter what you say, Jen. I'm just trying to get the
Mhm.
conversation going,
Go
right?
ahead. Yep.
And then we kind of wrap things up. And then at the end of the interview, Jen and I are still on Zoom, but I've stopped the interview recording. Now we're doing a little bit of housekeeping. And then I'm going to circle around and going to try to hook Jen in and get her booked into a discovery call. And here's the trick, people. When you do this properly, it works 7.5 times out of 10. So this works 75% of the time once you get the hang of it, that you can actually get the person booked into a discovery call with you. So it sounds something like this. Good job with that, Jen. Fantastic. I can't believe that was your first podcast interview. Well done.
Oh, thank you. I was so excited. I have never been called to a podcast ever, and this was so unknown for me, but it was really fun to talk to you.
Well, I'm glad. Now, Jen, you mentioned it a little bit. We were talking a little bit about creating some income outside of your job. You mentioned that you're doing some stuff with the 401k and one of your company pension plans got shut down. Now, when it comes to the annuities and things that you're investing in, are you 100% happy with the kind of returns you're getting with those investments, the security and the stability of that? Or is there maybe a little room for improvement there?
I mean, they're okay. I have been with my financial advisor for over 15 years. So,
Mhm.
I mean, if I can do better,
Okay. Well, the reason I asked Jen is we're doing something really interesting with some other busy engineers just like you in alternative investing. And here's the great thing. Not only are we able to get them really solid, steady Eddie, double digit returns on their money, but we're also quite often able to get them massive, massive tax breaks on their personal income taxes at the same time, thanks to the big, beautiful bill. Is that something you might be interested in taking a look at?
you got me at taxes.
Tax savings, I hope.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well, let's do this. I'm doing a few other interviews today, so let's book us in for a quick little follow up. I kind of walk you through how all of this works. How does tomorrow at 2 work? Boom,
That
boom, boom.
sounds
Get them.
good. Yeah, I
Yeah,
will I will clear my schedule.
yeah, whatever. So you get them booked in. Here's a big tip, you guys, within the next 48 hours. Sooner the better. Otherwise, they forget about it, that sort of thing. So that really is the whole thing. You bring up kind of that creating income outside of your job towards the end of the interview without it sounding sleazy or salesy. And
Mhm.
then you create curiosity, you create that hook after the fact, get them booked into the discovery call. And then another big tip for your listeners and your viewers, Jen, on that discovery call, do not, I repeat, do not try to get them to cut you a check.
Yep.
It's too much, too fast. Take her slow there, big guy. So here's the goal that we've set for our clients, our capital raiser clients. The goal is show them how a deal works. And here's the big thing, big, broad strokes, dumb it down,
Mhm.
explain it at an average 13-year-old comprehension level, especially the engineers in the group here. You have to be really careful because and I'm not saying you, Jen, I'm just saying in general.
Mhm.
They tend to overcomplicate the damn thing, bring too many graphs and charts and numbers and jargon, ROIs, NOIs, cap rates, all this kind of stuff. You got to remember the average person, even an engineer, brilliant, they don't know squat about real estate or financial terms or all of this kind of stuff. And the smarter they are, the less likely they're going to tell you they don't understand something. And the goal of your discovery call is to kind of show them big, broad strokes why you love real estate, why you love multifamily, if that's your asset class, how the money's made, walk them through an example deal. Here's an example if our investor had to put $100,000 in this deal, here's how this would have worked, and here's what they would have gotten out of it, right? Just show them an example. Do not try to sell them on a specific deal. And then at the end of the discovery call, and then you say, Jen, yeah, so any other questions? No, that's fine. Does this look like something you might be interested in if we were to find a deal that made sense for you?
Yes.
Perfect. Would you like us to add you to our VIP investor list? And then that way you get first dibs on any new projects that come across our desk. Would you like that?
Of course, VIP.
Perfect. And then that's the trick, you guys. The goal of the discovery call is to add them to your VIP investor list, which a lot of folks, I'm assuming, Jen, a lot of your students and your followers, they have some sort of an investor portal, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay, here's the big trick, you guys. Do not send them to the portal and ask them to fill out all that stuff themselves. No, The second Jen says, yes, I want to be added to your VIP investor list. Great. Share the portal on your screen, fill it out for Jen, with Jen on the call, right? Get that all filled out. And then that way you're able to qualify them, confirm that they qualify as an accredited investor, ask all the questions that are in your questionnaire. You get it done right there and then with them. Plunk. Now Jen's in the system. Hopefully, you've got things set up so you've got a drip sequence going out that's going to educate her over the next 2 or 3 weeks, case studies, testimonials, examples. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, if you've got a current deal on the go or you've got a fund that you're raising for, then I would circle back to Jen and say, hey, Jen, have you had a chance to watch some of that stuff that we sent you? Yes, we have. Okay, I think I've got a really interesting deal that I think might be right up your alley. Would you like to take a look at it with me? What's she going to
Yes.
say? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Why? Because she already told you, I want to be on your VIP investor list. So when you got a deal, I want to hear about it first. But again, you got to be a little bit patient here. Don't go for the kill immediately. Give it a little time to percolate and then circle back in 2 or 3 weeks. And then that's when we actually make the investor presentation.
I love about this process multiple things, and I didn't know I like followed pretty much that process. I did add a couple of caveats there that allows me to distinguish myself, right, from helping them solve one financial problems they have by connecting them with someone,
Beautiful.
talking to them about how to use self-directed IRS and bringing them an expert on it, those kind of things. But more than anything, and I don't think this is what people is catching, it takes the pressure from any capital raiser to have the desire to sell something. It's
Mm,
about the relationship. And when you do that, things flow smoothly. It removes part of the resistance that you encounter when you're trying to raise capital compared to a cold call, which
yeah.
is a completely different thing. I don't like those
Yes.
type of styles. I don't use them. I tried them. I did okay with it, but it just didn't fit with
It
who I am.
sucks. It sucks. It's a terrible way to sell
Yeah,
anything.
correct. It's
I
like,
admire
oh
people
yeah,
who could do it. It's just no fun at all.
it
It's
is
just
not fun
painful.
for me. It is
Yeah,
not fun for me.
or them.
Correct, correct. And it's like, it's a relationship base, it's a philosophy. And that's what I love about these process. You get to know this person because you also want to know who they are.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have encountered this, but there's times too that I don't want to work with certain investors. I don't
exactly.
care how much money they bring to the table. And it just creates
Life's
it's a
too short.
resistant. Yes, it's like, no, you're fired. You're not even hired. And they
Yeah.
come with this great resume and all of that, but I get to choose who I want to work with. And I
Mhm.
love that. It's aligned capital, it's aligned values in general, and it's so easy to go through the process, right? There's no pushing, trying to sell them something, especially when you don't have a deal. I love that when you
Oh
don't
yeah.
have a deal.
It's
And
perfect. That's the
yeah,
best time to be raising capitals when
correct.
you don't need it.
Correct, exactly. When you don't
Yeah.
need it. And I teach a couple of tricks on how do you use this conversation to create your next budget for your next deal. But more than anything, David, I love your process, your smooth process. It's about the relationship. It's about aligned capital. And it just give a clear strategy how you approach that.
Thank you.
Now, for people who they might be shy and they don't want to be in camera, what is your recommendation for them? They don't want to be influencer. How do you help them produce, how they can still use podcasting effectively?
This podcasting is actually really good for introverts.
Mm.
Believe it or not, Jen, I'm kind of an introvert. Really, I am. So the nice thing about a podcast when you do it properly is your guest is doing 90% of the talking. Like you're asking them a few questions. Your whole job is to focus on making them look good, feel good, sound good. It really isn't about me.
Yeah.
So that takes all the pressure off. So you don't have to strut your stuff and be, the cool kid on the block interviewer. You just have to make your guest look good. So I think that takes a lot of pressure off. If you're like me and you got a face made for radio, then just do an audio podcast. You don't have to do a video version if you don't want to be seen on camera. And about being an influencer, you're really not. Like you're interviewing people. They naturally see you as an expert because you're the host of this show that they just automatically assume you must know what you're talking about. But you don't have to be an influencer. You're not trying to really strut your stuff. It really is all about making your guest look good. So again, I would recommend give it a try. You never know until you try it. A lot of our clients kind of felt that way when they first started. It's like, who am I to be a podcast host? This stuff, and then they get going, and then they meet really cool, interesting people on their show and have great conversations, and those conversations just naturally lead into discovery calls and capital, and they like that a lot. So
Yes. Well, David, you wrote a book that is amazing for people trying to find investors. How can people get hold of that book?
yeah, Jen. So it's called How to Get 20 Accredited Investor Meetings Every Month. Guess what? Spoiler alert, it's using a podcast. But the book basically walks through the whole process. So if you want to do it yourself, it gives you everything that you need. You can get that at 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. That's the number 20. And then after you've opted in for the book, it's free with your name and your email address. Then there's an option there where you can book a call with me if you'd like us to build everything out for you, fill it up with your ideal avatar, and produce everything for you. And these days, actually, we charge on a performance basis. So it's pretty appealing that way.
Awesome. That's amazing. And if people want to get hold of you, how they connect with you, what's the best way?
I prefer that. So go ahead, opt in for the book. That gets you in my list. We'll be keeping in touch, and you can always just respond to any of those emails. And that's a great way to get a hold of us. Otherwise, if you just kind of want to poke around and see what we're up to, resultsenterprises.com.
Well, David, thank you so much for all the golden nuggets you have shared with all of us. I know a lot of people will be looking to, hey, I want to do a podcast. Let me talk to David. So I will make sure I put the link in the description below so they can get hold of you. And of course, I'm going to share with all my students because it's coming. So we're gonna have you in our programs, also sharing what you do because I think your job is outstanding. So, and again, thank you for taking the time with to be with all of us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you, Jen.